Hey guys, John here, and welcome back to John's RC. And today I am here with two planes actually. This is not what I normally do, but today we are going to be doing a comparison video between the E-flite Umx Pitts S1S and the E-flite Umx Waco, or Waco, sorry. So after I did my Umx Waco video, I got a bunch of comments on that video asking how it compares to the Umx Pitts, because I've also done a video on that, and it seems like the most comparable thing to it. So you can see here I have both of them lined up for you. So I'm going to give you the specs of both of these planes, and then we're going to do two flights, and I'll tell you guys how I feel. So let's start off with the Pitts here. This model comes as a bonded flight package like all of the Umx airplanes, and this model has a wingspan of 434 millimeters with a length of 393 millimeters with a flying weight of 125 grams on the 3S battery. Now, just like all the new Umx's, and this is counting the Waco and the Pitts, they fly on two different types of batteries. The first one is a Spektrum 2-cell 300 mAh battery pack, and you can see here it's the 30C discharge rate one that I have. And the second type of battery that I love using is the Spektrum 3-cell 300 mAh battery pack with the 30C discharge rate. And this battery is just awesome on all of the new UMXs, like the Turbo Timber Evolution, the Pitts, the Waco. They're just a beautiful flying planes with the power system that E-flite has added. So yeah, this is the inside of the plane, and you can see here that you have your motor that they have beautifully put in, and this is where your battery goes, and the little JST ESC connector. I also just want to take the time to say that the Pitts is actually a really beautiful model. I actually kind of got her scuffed up right now because of the spinner. If you guys have flown any UMX, you would know that this is the most vulnerable thing on the plane, that or the wheel pants. And I ran this thing into a sidewalk on landing, and it didn't go out too well. So other than that, she's still a looker. You can see here you have all your flight wires, and you have this beautiful paint scheme and trim scheme, and it's just such a lovable plane. I mean, it's such a small little Pitts, and I don't know, I really like it. So now moving on to the Waco, I'll also give you the specifications on this one. This is actually slightly bigger than the Pitts with a wingspan of 550 millimeters with a length of 418 millimeters. Now, what I found really odd is the Waco is actually bigger than the Pitts. However, this thing has a flying weight of 125 grams, and this thing has a flying weight of 119 grams. Now, this weight is so minuscule that you'll probably won't even notice it in flight, the weight difference, but it's still odd that this somehow isn't lighter than this. It might be because it has a fatter fuselage, maybe so, but still, it was quite interesting. So in here is where the battery goes, and just like the Pitts, you could either use your Spektrum 2S300 or your Spektrum 3S300. And you can see here, this is where the battery goes. Like I said in my Waco midden, which if you haven't seen, you should go watch that. It's a really cool video. They upgraded the little battery hatch from the first one, so they extended it to the, if I can get it in, they extended it from just the cowling into where the conveyance struts sit. So yeah, they both share the same linear servos. There's 4, I believe, on both of these airplanes. You have your 2 underneath the wing on the Waco. I'm sorry, the Pitts, the linear servos, and then there is a little joiner that connects the bottom aileron to the top. And then I'm not sure if you could see it from here, but they share the same board, and that just has the 2 servos inside the same board, and that connects to the elevator linkage and the rudder linkage. And just really quick, same thing for the Waco. You have your 2 servos, and they connect by this this little joiner. So Now let's give both of these a flight. We'll start off with the pits and then we'll move on to the Waco. Alright guys, I have the pits plugged in on the 3-cell 300 mAh battery pack. You can see I have everything working. And I have my throttle. This model still has that very distinctive UMX sounding airplane sound, that blue motor. So, guess we'll just take off from here. Okay, taking off. It is in the air. Looks like it needs some rudder trim. Still needs some trim. Okay. Might have picked the wrong model. It said pits on it. So let's go full throttle. Awesome. So it's flying really nice right now. And it looks really nice. Very beautiful model. Now you can see here what I'm rolling. That's maximum aileron. So this is the roll rate that we're working with. So that's the roll rate. Let's check out the stall speed. I'm really flying it just for like testing right now. Just like testing out all the different characteristics of it. So now let's move into a maximum wing loading. That's full up elevator, full up elevator. And she doesn't really bite. No bite. So let's try that again. Full throttle. Oh, sorry, not full throttle. I thought that was bad. Let's try that again, maybe a bit further away. Full up elevator, full up elevator. And she kind of just like goes into a very slight spin. I'm gonna be flying her really tame right now because my hands are freezing. It's moving into December and I'm not used to it. Now let's go into a hover and see how she performs. Okay, let's try that again. Huh. Okay, so from the looks of it, it looks like it's very difficult to get it seated into the hover. And it needs constant throttle input. Like, it won't stay relaxed. Try one more time. Yeah, you can see it wing rocks a lot, and also it needs a bunch of positive power. Like, it won't sit there. You can see here it's just wing rocking. So obviously the pits, it wasn't designed for that, but it is nice when the plane wasn't designed for something and it's able to do it nicely. It might also have to do with this model has a shorter wingspan and it's also a shorter fuselage. So what the pits was actually for, you know, is your smooth sport aerobatics, so your precision flying. So if you go into something like a 4-point roll, it's gonna do it very happily. Let's test inverted. There is more than enough elevator deflection to have this thing happily inverted. And plenty of power to go around. So let's see here. I'm just gonna throw my sticks into a corner. And it does it really nicely. So I have a minute left. I'm gonna go ahead and land the airplane. Okay. All right, so that was my flight on the E-flite Umx pits. And what I can see from here, she is really, really oriented towards sport flying, which is of course what the pits was designed for. So normally when you get a plane that's designed like this, it's a little extra bonus where it's able to do 3D flying, but this one is really just stuck on 3D flying. I did plenty of tests with it. I can see stall characteristics is nothing to worry about at all. I loaded up the wing to max and it didn't drop a wing at all. It kind of just went to like a slight little turn. So yeah, you have plenty of power to go around with the 3S battery, of course. And I did some extra testing like hovering, and if you could see, it was not happy at all trying to hover this thing. Sometimes when you're in the hover, it will either wing lock or it won't even do it at all. It wants to just get out of it. So you would need plenty of throttle input to get it seated, but then when you finally do get it into the hover, you're probably above FAA regulations. So we're going to be flying the Waco now, and we'll do my final opinion afterwards. Alright everyone, I have the Waco plugged in on the same 3-cell battery that I use for the pits, and you can see I have everything working all around, and I have my throttle control. So let's go ahead and fly her. Now I will say I have these two on different transmitters. My pits was originally bound on the NX10 and it already had all the trim set up. So this is on the NX7 and the pits is on the NX10. So I'm going to be taking off without safe, just like I did with the pits. Then here we go. So what I can immediately tell right after flying the pits is this thing is a lot more floaty. This is very minimal power. And she's very happy. Now let's go into a full vertical. And then you have plenty of power to go around. So, no complaints there. This is the roll rate we are working with. I have such limited space. Let's go this way. So, I think the roll rate of the pits might actually be higher. So, yeah. It might be because the pits has a shorter wing, of course, and this thing has a longer wing by almost 100 millimeters, or I think it is 100 millimeters. So, yeah. There's a bit of a breeze, but it's not affecting the plane too much because it has the AS3X. And I fly this Waco a lot, and what I can show you right now is the hovering characteristics are nothing of that of the Pitts. So let's bring it a bit closer. Get it relaxed into a hover. It's just an awesome flying airplane. Has this really awesome flight envelope that can go from, you know, if you're a beginner, you can actually fly this because it has your safe, which I don't recommend you to lean on too much. And if you get out of safe, you have this really nice flying scale model, which you can do your scale aerobatics with. This is not so scale, but then you have, you know, your precision flying. Let's do a loop. The wind is messing up a little bit, but that's fine. And then you can just keep this thing at full throttle the entire time. You know, this thing can probably identify as a racer for UMX planes. Just such an awesome model. I am flying into the wind right now, so you know, it's nothing like my maiden flight video. If you saw that with the wind, that was a crazy flight. But it held up really, really well in the wind. Now let's do the same thing I did with the Pitts. We're just gonna load up the wing. Let's fill up elevator, fill up elevator. No bite. So much like the Pitts, you're not gonna get real stalls with this thing. But what I found, and what I can feel right now, is the Waco can fly much more enclosed than the Pitts. And that's what I've said to some of my subscribers that have asked me about the Waco and the Pitts. So you can see here, I'm just doing some enclosed figure eights. But what the difference is, it would be tremendously difficult to do that on the Pitts. What the Pitts is looking for is more high energy maneuvers. And if you lower your throttle too much, it's probably gonna tip a wing. Morning.
Nice. Wait.
All right, let's go and land her. Oh, that was a bad landing. I'm sorry. All right, so that was my flight on the Waco, and she still flies great. I've done 2 videos on her already. It's my maiden, but if you've seen that video, it was really windy, so We did a second flight where I compared the two different types of batteries this thing can use. So yeah, now let's bring her back to the table so I can say which one I feel is better for just general flying. Alright, so now that I've had the chance to fly both the Pitts and the Waco, I'm going to give you a quick little rundown on how both of these airplanes fly, and then I'll tell you which one I actually prefer. So, the Pitts is a beautiful model, but it needs a lot of energy going into maneuvers and just flying in general. Now, I have attempted to fly this little model in my cul-de-sac, and it does not sit happily. It does not want to fly there. It wants a big space like the field I'm flying at, where you could sit happily at like 50, 60 to 100% throttle. It doesn't really like under that range because you have this shorter fuselage and it's on the heavier side. Like I said, this is heavier than this plane, but even though the weight is minuscule, this compared with the short wingspan makes it not the best flyer for enclosed spaces. So when you're flying this thing, you really want to be in a more open space. I don't know if many people fly in their cul-de-sacs, like actually fly in their cul-de-sacs. I do, and I found that it doesn't want to. This plane doesn't want to. So the best ideal flying space for this is either like an actual flying field or a small park. It's under 250 grams, so there's going to be no regulations on it. But yeah, still, you probably don't want to fly in too small of a space. Now, going on to the Waco, when you take off, you would immediately feel a difference between these two aircraft. The Waco has a larger wingspan and it's lighter than the Pitts, which makes it a lot more floaty. And when you take off, you immediately feel that it doesn't even feel like it's taking off. It feels like it's gravitating off of the ground, like levitating. It's just so floaty. And because this model is lighter and has the longer wingspan, you're able to turn more aggressively and without it biting you. So when you're turning, it's not going to drop a wing like a Pitts would do, because this is a real experience. I got this stuck in a tree flying this in my cul-de-sac, and yeah, so I've flown the Waco in my cul-de-sac too, and I'm able to turn super aggressively, just like, you know, like 90-degree full up elevator, and it will just turn. It won't drop a wing on you. So that's the main difference that I see between these two airplanes in terms of just general flying. The Pitts is geared more towards sport aerobatics. Of course, I mean, it's a Pitts, and normally having a airframe like this, as like a little bonus, you would see it do 3D, but not this one. So this little airframe is really for your precision flying, your scale flying, like a real Pitts would fly. And you can see on the Waco from my last flight, it had a really wide flight envelope, where this one was really geared towards, like, I mean, you could fly on safe or you could fly it like a sport plane. This one has a bit more of a wide flight envelope, where you can go from, you could fly as like a beginner, you could do sport, you could do scale, and then you can do your 3D aerobatics. Now, I've tested just hovering. I didn't do any real 3D on this thing, just hovering, and it did not want to do it whatsoever. You would go into your hover position, but then it would either wing rock, or, sorry, the wind, it would either wing rock, or it wouldn't want to do it at all, and it would kind of just slightly escape from the hover, even though you're at your like full elevator. And maintaining the hover, if you do get into it, is also difficult, because it only wants to do it when you're pushing your throttle up. So you're pushing your throttle up, and once you get it into your hover, you're probably going to be over a 400 feet FAA regulations. So it just doesn't want to do it. I'll just say that. The rudder deflection is too low for it to go into a prop hang position, and it wasn't meant for it. Now, the Waco, on the other hand, the real plane wasn't meant for it, but the airframe definitely wants to do it. So you're in your hover position and it just sits there and you can do your torque rolls. I will say that the rudder deflection is also still a bit low for hovering, but if you have to like really practice with this plane. It feels kind of unique when you do a hover. The planes that I've flown definitely don't hover like this. You do need some amount of throttle discipline and your rudder discipline to actually utilize the rudder into the hover, because it is a low deflection airplane. The roll rate on the pits is a bit higher than that of the Waco. However, what I really fly this for is just sport 3D, that kind of stuff, and a little bit of hovering and that thrown in between. This I feel is a lot better in terms of roll rate. You don't have too high of a roll rate, however, it's enough to get you around. So, in my opinion, for what I fly, I think the Waco is my pick. The Pitts is an absolutely beautiful model, don't get me wrong. I actually think the Pitts looks better than the Waco. Now that I look at them, I thought the Waco was the best looking one, but now that I really look at them, this thing really does just look like a miniature scale version of the Pitts. So I really love this thing, and it's just a beautiful model. E-flite really outdid themselves for this one. But flying on the other hand, I think this one is a lot more suitable for me, because for what I fly, I mean, a plane that can't hover, like a prop plane that can't hover, is kind of just like, what am I supposed to do with this thing? So, you know, the Pitts is your sport and your scale flying. However, that's not what I'm really into. The Waco, on the other hand, with its wide flight envelope, you can just do whatever you want and it'll do it happily. And also flying it in your cul-de-sac and just having fun with it, messing around with it, is, I think the Waco is just a lot better for me. So, yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So, thanks for tuning to John's RC. And if you're new to this channel, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Bye guys, I'll see you in the next one.